Yo, what is up, guys? It is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, back in today with another fantasy football video. Today's video is recapping all of the games from Sunday, the Sunday slate, every game from the 1 p.m. all the way until Sunday Night Football. Now, before I start the video, I'd like to give you guys a word from my sponsor, OverlayDFS. I love this website, even though I did shit this week and only went 7-5. Check out the ad right now. Are you tired of having to pick the perfect player at every single position in order to win on salary cap DFS? Are you tired of having your salary cap lineup out of the running to win that glorious money in the first 5 minutes of Sunday? Does playing salary cap DFS feel like a job and not even a fun game? Want a fantasy game where pros with 150 lineups and computer generated programs can't dominate? OverlayDFS.com has a new revolutionary start sit game for fantasy sports. They are home of the single entry GPP. Now you might ask me, Nick, how do you play this game? It is very simple. It's a simple start sit format. Make 12 start sit decisions from the 30 plus matchups presented to you on your screen, like you may see on my screen right now. A win, loss, or tie will be awarded to your overall record for each decision. Records in the top 10% of users win 9 times your buy-in. You heard that correct. 9 times your buy-in. 12-0 records win GTD progressive bonus. All matchups are player versus player. Who will have more total fantasy points? Typically, 8-4 record is good enough to get that cash. Sometimes it's 7-5. Other times it's 9-3, depending on the given week. Now, you're going to be making 12 picks in the matchup options listed. For example, the NFL Week 4 matchups include Lamar Jackson versus Dak Prescott, Robert Woods versus Brandon Cooks, and many, many more. The object is to stay consistent and finish in the top 10% of the field to win 9 times your buy-in until the stars align and you go that beautiful 12-0. Right now, if you go the perfect 12-0 in the $109 game, you'll win the progressive bonus of over $26,000. They have buy-ins of all levels. If no one hits that perfect 12-0 record, the progressive bonus keeps on growing and rolling over until it gets hit. It's like the super contest, but for DFS. Don't get shut out. Visit www.overlaydfs.com today. And we are bike. Let's get right into the video. First game to talk about here is the Tennessee Titans versus the Atlanta Falcons. Tennessee 24, Falcons 10. Marcus Mariota played out of his fucking mind. 227 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 picks. He honestly played how I thought Matt Ryan was going to play in this game. Matt Ryan, on the other hand, 35 for 53, 397 yards, no tutties, no picks. That's A-okay, but I mean, he didn't throw a fucking touchdown, so that definitely hurts his value. Now, the rushing game, Derrick Henry, 27 carries, 100 yards, looked phenomenal out there. Obviously did not score a touchdown at all in the running or the passing game, but still a pretty good game from him. Now, Devontae Freeman, 12 for 28, no touchdowns, but he got his work in the passing game, 8 for 72, and no touchdowns, but still a pretty good game from Devontae Freeman. Like I said, they're going to have to get him more involved in order to win. Obviously, they lost, but I think that the key to their success is to run the ball more. Now, the passing game for the Atlanta Falcons, Austin Hooper, 9 for 130. Mohamed Sanu, 9 for 91. Devontae Freeman, 8 for 74. Julio Jones, 4 for 52. Calvin Ridley, 3 for 32. And Ito Smith, 2 for 20. Obviously, Ito Smith got that rushing touchdown. He straight up vultured my boy Devontae Freeman, but it's okay because the receiving game looked great. It was just the fact that Matt Ryan wasn't throwing any touchdowns. Hooper probably could have had a huge game today had he gotten a touchdown. Same with Mr. Sanu or Julio. Now, in the passing game for the Titans, A.J. Brown, 3 for 94 and 2 touchdowns. Now, a lot of people are going to be huge on picking up A.J. Brown. I'm not buying into this Titans offense at all. The only one guy I would even want is Derrick Henry. Corey Davis, 5 for 91 and a touchdown. Pretty good game from him as well. Now, the next game here is the Patriots at the Buffalo Bills. Tom Brady, the GOAT, 18 for 39, 150 yards, 1 pick. What a great game from the GOAT. What a game. 16-10 Patriots. Josh Allen, 13 for 28, 153 yards, 1 pick. Obviously ran the ball in once, but he ended up getting absolutely demolished by a guy in the Patriots and getting concussed. Who knows if he'll be good for week 5 next week. Matt Barkley came in his relief. You're never going to play that guy. 9 for 16, 1 pick. Didn't look all that good. Now the rushing game for the ageless wonder Frank Gore, 17 for 109 yards. And yes, you are reading that correctly and hearing that correctly. 17 carries for 109 yards for that old man against one of the better defenses in the league. He looks great. Sony Michel, 17 for 63. All the other running backs got pretty much nothing. So Sony Michel had the only okay day, but didn't even hop in the end zone. Brandon Bolden obviously scored a touchdown there, 1 for 4. You wouldn't have started him. James White, 8 for 57, 0 touchdowns. Josh Gordon, 3 for 46. Julian Edelman, 4 for 30. Nothing to talk about from this passing game here on New England. I think they should be better next week. Now, Buffalo, Cole Beasley, 7 for 75. John Brown, 5 for 69. TJ Eldon, 4 for 68. Dawson Knox, a guy to talk about in deeper leagues, might be a tight end option that you may want to actually pick up and add in a deeper league. 3 for 58, and the rest of the team didn't really do all that much. I think given if Josh Allen was in this game, they may have actually been able to eat that W like famous Jameis, but that didn't happen. We need to hope Mr. Josh Allen is all Gucci and comes back next week. Next game here, Kansas City Chiefs at the Detroit Lions. Kansas City 34, Detroit 30. Pat Mahomes had a not so good game. The Hall of Famer, 24 for 42, 315 yards and no touchdowns. No touchdowns, but that's okay because he threw like 9 million the past couple of weeks. Obviously didn't help your fantasy team, but his numbers will still look fine at the end of the year. Matthew Stafford, on the other hand, 21 for 34, 291 yards, 3 tutties, 0 picks. Great game from Matthew Stafford. Now, the rushing game for Detroit, carry on 26 for 125 and no touchdowns. But it's okay because they actually fed our boy Kerryon Johnson. Knock one time if you're with me. That is amazing. In the passing game for Detroit, Marvin Jones 3 for 77, no touchdowns. Kenny Golladay 5 for 67 and 2 tutties. Kerryon Johnson in the passing game 3 for 32, and then Hawkingod 3 for 27 and a touchdown, but he ended up getting hurt. Now the rushing game for the Kansas City Chiefs, 11 carries for 56 yards and a touchdown for LaShawn McCoy. Darrell Williams, 8 rushes, 13 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pretty good game out of him. Travis Kelce got a lot of work in the passing game, 7 for 85, no touchdowns. Watkins, Robinson, Hardman did not have that great of a day. Watkins 3 for 54. Mr. Demarcus Robinson 4 for 35, and Mecole Hardman 2 for 9. Next game to talk about here is the Raiders at the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Oakland Raiders won 31-24, but my stream, one of the guys I was liking to stream this week, Jacoby Brissett, 24 for 46, 265 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Solid game out there for him. Now, obviously, that last touchdown was pretty much garbage time. There was no way the Colts could win that game, and Eric Ebron was just butt-ass naked open, and he threw the ball his way, but still counts for fantasy. If you guys have played fantasy for a while, you remember Blake Bortles a couple of years ago, king of garbage time. Jacoby Brissett was the king this week. Marlon Mack, 11 for 39, the rushing game. Nothing really to write home about there. The passing game was nothing really to write home about either. Eric Ebron, 1 for 48 and a touchdown. Chester Rogers, 3 for 48 and a touchdown. Jack Doyle, 4 for 22 and a touchdown. But none of the guys, or T.Y. Hilton wasn't out there, so there wasn't really a huge receiver to talk about there. Now, Oakland, Josh Jacobs, 17 for 79. Pretty solid game for him. Also got some work in the passing game, 2 for 29 in the passing game. Darren Waller obviously looked great. 7 for 53, no touchdowns, gets a lot of involvement on the team. Terrell Williams, 3 for 36, scores that touchdown as he normally does. And Foster Moreau, 3 for 30 and a touchdown. Who the fuck is that guy? Next game here is the Chargers at my Miami Dolphins, 30-10. Now the Dolphins got absolutely destroyed. Josh Rosen, 17 for 24, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Didn't look all that bad. Philip Rivers on the other hand, 24 for 30, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. Pretty solid game out of him. Austin Eckler in his probably one of his final games as the starter. Now, obviously, they will use Melvin Gordon. They activated Melvin Gordon, didn't even use him at all. I told you guys to sit him, so hopefully you did. Austin Eckler, 18 for 60 and a touchdown. Pretty solid game. Knock one time if you're with me for Austin Eckler. And then Troy Pope, 10 carries, 20 yards, no touchdowns, but I'm pretty sure my main man, Troy Man, got into the end zone, 2 for 14 and a touchdown in the passing game. Dontrell Inman got involved, 5 for 76. Eckler got that passing work, 5 for 62 and a touchdown. Keenan Allen, 5 for 48, didn't have the game that I honestly hoped he would because Philip Rivers was throwing the ball to every single person on the field. The rushing game for Miami, 9 for 44 for Kenyon Drake. No one else really to talk about there. Devontae Parker, 4 for 70 and a touchdown. You don't want anything to do with any of these Dolphins wide receivers besides maybe Preston Williams, who's been scoring a solid 10 fantasy points every single game. 4 for 46 for Mr. Preston. Next game to talk about is the Redskins at the New York Giants. Redskins 3, Giants 24. Dwayne Haskins ended up coming in the game after Case Keenum threw 1 pick, but Dwayne Haskins said, Dwayne Haskins said, hold my goddamn beer, threw 3 fucking interceptions. Looked terrible. Daniel Jones, 23 for 31, 225 yards, 1 tutty, 2 picks. Didn't look all that great, but you want to know who looked amazing? Wayne Gallman, 18 for 63, 1 tutty in the rushing game, 6 for 55, and a tutty in the passing game. A shit ton of fantasy points from Mr. Wayne Gallman. Now, the rushing game for the Washington didn't look so strong. 11 for 28 for AP. Chris Thompson got 4 for 4. Chris Thompson got 4 for 56 in the passing game. And then Paul Richardson took a fucking doo-doo on all of us. 3 for 14. Did not have the game that I thought he would have when Scary Terry was out. Now, McLaren should be back next week, and I'm pretty comfortable starting him even against the Patriots. Now, Sterling Shepard, 7 for 76. No touchdowns. Wayne Gallman, 6 for 55. 1 touchdown. Evan Ingram, 4 for 54. So nothing really to write home about there. Shepard and Ingram are definitely starts pretty much every single week, and now Golden Tate's coming back. Maybe he could be a start as well. Next game to talk about here is the Cleveland Browns at the Baltimore Ravens. Cleveland 40, Baltimore 25. Now, this was a game where I thought that the Ravens were going to come out here and win, but the Browns, they were hungry. They ate, and they ended up winning the game. Baker Mayfield, 20 for 30 for 342 passing yards, 1 tutty, 1 pick. Lamar Jackson, 24 for 34, 247 yards, 3 tutties, 2 picks. In the rushing game, Lamar went 9 for 66. Baker, 3 for 1. And then Nick Chubb is really the person to write home about in this game. 20 carries, 165 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Looked amazing on that 88-yard run, I believe it was. It looked glorious. Now, Nick Chubb also went 3 for 18 in the passing game. Now, Baltimore obviously likes to rush the ball. Mark Ingram, 12 for 71. Like I said, Lamar Jackson, 9 for 66. And obviously, Mark Ingram didn't score 3 times like last week because they weren't up by a million like they were against Kansas City, even though Kansas City ended up winning that game. Now, Willie Snead, 2 for 61. The passing game there was a lot of guys getting the ball on this team. Mark Andrews, 4 for 31. Hollywood Brown, 4 for 22, but Mark Andrews scored 431 and a touchdown. Nothing else to talk about there. Jarvis had a great game, 8 for 167 before getting hurt. And then Ricky Seals-Jones ended up scoring. But Odell, really nothing to write home about. 2 for 20. Odell not looking too super hot and spicy. Not looking like a guy. Obviously, you're going to start him, but he doesn't look like that great wide receiver that you drafted him to be. Carolina Panthers, 16 against the Houston Texans, 10. Kyle Allen looked pretty good out there. It's 24 for 34, 232 yards, no touchdowns. Now, Deshaun Watson on the other side of the ball didn't look too hot either, but the worst quarterback in this game was clearly DeAndre Hopkins, 0 for 1 and 1 pick. Deshaun Watson, 21 of 33 for 0 touchdowns, 0 picks. Christian McCaffrey had a great game. Who would have guessed it? 27 carries, 93 yards, and a touchdown. 10 receptions, 86 yards. No touchdowns in the passing game, but 1 total touchdown. Over 150 rushing or total yards for Christian McCaffrey. Great game, obviously. Now, the Houston rushing game, Carlos Hyde, 12 for 58, no touchdowns. Duke Johnson, 6 for 56. Kiki Kuti got 1 rush, and Deshaun Watson ran 1 touchdown in. DeAndre Hopkins, 5 for 41 in the passing game, obviously threw that pick. Duke Johnson, 2 for 22. Will Fuller, 3 for 23. Kenny Stills, 2 for 24. Nothing really to write home about there. Now, in the passing game for Carolina, Jarius Wright was getting a lot of work, 5 for 59. DJ Moore, 3 for 44. Curtis Samuel, 3 for 32. Nothing really to write home about there. Pretty much all I gauged from this game was DeAndre Hopkins is not good at quarterback. What's funny is someone probably lost their fucking fantasy game because DeAndre Hopkins threw a pick. So that's pretty funny. Tampa Bay 55, Rams 40. Jameis Winston looked great out there, eating a goddamn W. Eat a W, 28 of 41, 385 yards, 4 tutties, 1 pick. Jared Goff, 45 completions of 68 attempts, 2 touchdowns, 517 yards, and 3 picks. Pretty great game from both of those guys. Obviously, the 3 picks hurts Goff, but 500-plus yards is a milestone for him. Todd Gurley, 5 carries, 16 yards, 2 touchdowns. Obviously, you can't assume that he's going to score 2 touchdowns on 5 carries every game, but he still came through, got 7 passes also, 7 receptions for 54 yards, so looked fucking great today. The rushing for Tampa, Rojo, 19 for 70. Peyton Barber, 9 for 19. Rojo went 1 for 12 in the passing game. Mr. Peyton Barber also did end up hopping in the end zone. Now, this was Chris Godwin's game, 12 for 172 and 2 touchdowns. Mike Evans also had a good game, 4 for 89 and a touchdown. Cameron Brate ended up scoring, not O.J. Howard, so the O.J. Howard owners are probably very sad. Now, Robert Woods took an L the last couple of weeks, but he bounced back, 13 for 164 with no touchdowns. Cooper Kupp, 9 for 121 and a touchdown. Brandon Cooks, 6 for 71. So it seems like you can start all 3 of those guys. Gerald Everett ended up scoring 5 for 44 and a touchdown at the tight end position. This game, what I really got from this game is that Robert Woods Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks are obviously starters every week. A lot of people are trying to pivot off of Robert Woods. Do not panic. Do not pivot. Start them all. They can all be great every single week. Next game here is the Seattle Seahawks at the Arizona Cardinals. Seattle's 27, Cardinals 10. Russell Wilson had a pretty okay game, I would say. 240 yards, 1 touchdown, nothing to really write home about. Kyler Murray, 241 yards, 1 pick, nothing to write home about for him either. The Seattle defense absolutely ate this game, though. Now, on the rushing side of the ball for Seattle, 22 for 104 for Chris Carson. A lot of people were worried about Chris Carson, but he was in such a juicy matchup that it was impossible to sit him. Now, David Johnson, 11 for 40, looked A-okay, but he got his work in the passing game, 8 for 99. Pretty good for David Johnson, pretty good game for him. And in the passing game, Larry Fitz obviously passed Tony Gonzalez second in most receptions in NFL history. Jerry Rice, I believe, is ahead of him. Larry Fitz, 5 for 47. Christian Kirk, 4 for 37. Pretty much a disappointment from Kirk and Fitzgerald for this game. Will Dissly, 7 for 57 and a touchdown. Good start from him. Tyler Lockett, 4 for 51. Disappointing. Chris Carson, 4 for 41 in the passing game. Okay game from them. Obviously, the defense kind of got Seattle out of that one. Minnesota, 6. Chicago Bears 16. Kirk Cousins looks fucking terrible. 223 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks. Didn't look good. Mitchell Trubisky looked okay and then got fucking destroyed. And Chase Daniel came in 22 for 30, 1 touchdown. Obviously, you're not going to be playing Chase Daniel in fantasy football. David Montgomery got fed the ball, but in all the wrong situations. 21 for 53. And in the passing game, 3 for 14. So on an okay fantasy day. Not the breakout we were looking for, though. Now, Mr. Dalvin Cook, 14 for 35 and a touchdown. Got a lot of his work in the passing game, 6 for 35 in the passing game. They weren't really running the ball. They were behind the whole game, but he ended up scoring that touchdown at the end to save grace. Now, everyone was panicking off of Stefon Diggs. I was too. I wouldn't have started him. 7 for 108, and just a real kick to the dick to all those Stefon Diggs owners. Why didn't he do that the past couple of weeks? And then Adam Thielen, 2 for 6, left his owners out to dry, left them out for dead. Al Robinson, 7 for 77. Nothing else to really talk about from the Bears. This was a fucking snooze fest. Speaking of snooze fest, we're going to get to Sunday Night Football after this game. Jacksonville Jaguars, 26. Denver Broncos, 24. Gardner Minshew walk, 213 yards, 2 tutties. Great game from the mustache man over there. Joe Flacco, 303 yards, 3 tutties, 1 pick. Actually looked pretty good. Philip Lindsay in the rushing game, 9 carries, 53 yards. Royce Freeman, 6 carries, 16 yards. Now, Philip Lindsay didn't have all that good of a game today because in the passing game, he only got 1 pass for 7 yards and ended up scoring a touchdown. Now, the person to talk about is Emmanuel Sanders, 5 for 104, and then Cortland Sutton playing up against what should have been Jalen Ramsey, not Jalen Ramsey, 6 for 62 and 2 touchdowns. He had a great game today. Leonard Fournette is really the guy to talk about, though. 29 carries, 225 yards. Absolutely destroyed the Denver run defense. Amazing game from Leonard Fournette. D.D. Westbrook, 5 for 66. DJ Chark, 4 for 44. And Leonard Fournette, 2 for 20. Obviously, James O'Shaughnessy ended up scoring 1 touchdown. The other one went to Rock Armstead. So, pretty much Leonard Fournette's actually good. So, the snooze fest, Sunday Night Football, Dallas Cowboys, knock one time if you're with me. Dallas Cowboys 3-1. Or fell to 3-1 because they lost 12-10. Now, Dak Prescott not looking hot. 223 yards, 1 pick. Teddy Roosevelt, aka Teddy B, 23 of 30 for 193 yards and 1 pick. Looked terrible, but it was okay enough for them to win. Alvin Kamara, 17 for 69. Alvin Kamara, 3 for 20 in the passing game, so an okay game from him. Latavius Murray played a bit. There's nothing really to talk about from either of these offenses. Michael Thomas had a good game, 9 for 95. Alvin Kamara finished fine, but just besides that, there's nothing really to talk about. I mean, Zeke, 18 for 35 and a touchdown. Not a really hot game from him. Jason Witten got use. Zeke got a couple passes, 6 for 30. Amari Cooper, 5 for 48. So the Dallas Cowboys offense just shut down, just like I shut off my TV in the middle of this game. I'm just kidding. I watched the whole fucking game because I'm addicted to football. Got to get the knowledge for you guys. Knock one time if you're with me. So, this game was fucking shit. So, thank you guys all for watching this video. There's going to be a bunch more videos. Tomorrow, there's going to be one waiver wire video. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there's going to be a million videos. So, click that fucking subscribe button. Have a great goddamn day. I love you all. Goodbye.